What's up, everybody? Today I want to give you a little bit of a life update as well as some lessons that I learned the hard way recently about ensuring that you cover your ass when you're hiring people and making sure that you're not exposed to unnecessary amounts of risk and that you have the ability to protect yourself in case something goes south. So we're going to dig through this. We're not going to name any names. We're going to talk about the situation generically, some of the things that I should have done differently, could have done differently, the setup, the downfall, and what the plan is going forward. So here you go. All right, to set this up, last year I did 10 or 12 wholesale flip deals myself, off-market properties, right? That includes the 79 units. That was the hotel, 2 apartments, and the single family house. That includes a few wholesales, a few hotels, some flips all around the area. Nothing too crazy, smaller operation. I was just doing direct mail and the calls would come in and I would, I had a call center, call porter, and I would answer the calls that way. They would schedule the appointments. For a lot of that time, I was still in California. So my buddy Kevin is an agent. He would go walk the properties, give me some numbers, I'd make the offer, and then I'd list it with Kevin, so it was worth both our time. Now, then I moved back to California. I would go back from California to Missouri. I would go on the appointments myself, 2, 3, 4 appointments a week. I'd go out, I'd look at houses, I'd give them numbers, yada, yada. Everything's great. All things are great. And I had a friend who I'd known for 2 or 3 years who liked my platform, liked what I stood for, liked the business model, had been in sales and said, hey, how about I come alongside you? I'll go on all the appointments. I'll focus on acquisitions. I'll focus on this. I'll focus on that. I'll allow you to focus on the brand more, and we can still scale this thing without you having to be super involved. So my role was the marketing and the raising of money and the systems and the hiring and all that side. And his role was the acquisitions that eventually grew into acquisitions and dispositions, selling the deal. And then ultimately we decided to do some renovations and he would do some project management as well. And the goal here for both of us was that this would scale up. We were hoping to do 7 figures gross this year, and it would scale up to a point where as long as everything went well, we trusted each other, things were going great, he would be 50-50 partner. And then at that point, he'd focus on the operations, I'd focus on the marketing and the private money, and I'd be able to focus on the brand, and this thing would make us a lot of money. And that's all well and good. So we're doing it for a little while. We land a couple deals, we wholesale a few of them, we flip 1 or 2 of them, and in the process, we decided to renegotiate. Well, I guess I'm going to back up a little bit. There was a 3-month ramp up period. So those 3 months, I paid this person $5,000 a month as we were building the business, and that was more than I would have paid, except that he had a large family and his expenses are a little bit higher. So, it is what it is. So that was a lot of money to come out of pocket when we didn't have deals yet, but I did that for 3 months. That was the agreed upon deal. And then from there, we were going to do like a sliding scale, 10 to 15%, for deals. It doesn't work out great. We didn't land any deals for a while. As is the case with these deals, it takes consistency and it takes a lot of marketing to really start spinning things up. And then all of a sudden we landed 6 deals, right as I was starting to freak out. And made some good money. And as that was coming towards a draw, he was like, hey, we should probably revamp some of this commission structure because I'm realizing how much money the company's going to make versus how much I'm going to take out. And, I still got to be able to feed my family. And I probably shouldn't have, because I needed to pay the company back for all the marketing that it had done. But I agreed because, again, this is me trying to facilitate that we have a partnership and we grow and everything's great. And I will say what I should have done when we originally hired, and I'll get into this, is I didn't make him sign an NDA. I didn't make him sign a non-compete. And I didn't make him sign something that said, hey, once I leave the company, any commissions earned are no longer mine because I left the company. And I knew that I should have done that, but I also was trying to facilitate trust because it's a friend and I wanted to make sure that we would be good partners. So I wanted to trust him as a partner and give him a little bit more reach. So then we get to this point, we're increasing commission. We agreed on 20% and 5% extra if he dispositioned it himself. And then he wanted to do some renovations. So I'm like, okay, cool. Hey, I'm fine with renovations as long as it doesn't take too much of my time. And so I was like, I'll pay you an extra 10% if you manage all the projects, but the caveat here is that you need to focus on the acquisition side, right? The acquisition side is ultimately more important. And if we're running around doing all of our time on the projects, then we're missing out on acquisitions, and that's ultimately going to be really bad for the business. Time goes on, he's getting sucked more and more into these projects. He's not really running all these appointments. He's not able to manage the leads the way that he should be. And so, we brought in a lead manager to help with that because we're getting more leads now, and we need to focus more effort on getting those leads to appointment for him. And what I should have done is I should have said, hey, how about you come back into the office and focus more on the leads rather than me taking on this expense of hiring a new employee and training them. But, hey, we're scaling, so it makes sense that the next position would be a lead manager. So as we scale it out, cool. So we're growing, and then I'm seeing less of him still, less of him again, less of him, and I'm like, where is this? Like, what? The projects are, if we stop doing acquisitions, the business fails. And I start freaking out because I'm realizing, like, the money, we don't have any deals immediately lined up. The cash is not hitting, right? We're not making the money yet. The flips are going to be very profitable. The refis, the burrs are going to be very good. But it's dragging out because we don't have the wholesales going. And the whole deal originally was like, we need to wholesale one or two deals before we start doing flips, because the wholesales, they're immediate cash. They keep the business running, because at this time, $15,000, $20,000 a month to keep the business running while we're doing these flips that are taking too long and going over budget. Now, they're all still very profitable, but the wholesales keep the business alive. And I guess somewhere in there, something I said might have seemed like a critique on his ability as a project manager, while I fully understood why we went over budget and why we were taking longer than we should have. And they're all growing pains. I don't know. I mean, 2 weeks ago, sits down and he says, I'm going to do this on my own. The reason I was given was essentially that it, like the whole line about like, this is better for you, it's less stressful, you can focus on your brand. I'm worried that you might just pull the plug on this, whatever. All of which basically is like, hey, we have all these problems that we aren't addressing, so rather than address them, I'm gonna go do it on my own. And I don't know. I mean, I'll never know really if there's truth behind the reasons for going to do it on his own. But I will know that, my buyer's list got exported. Some of the leads, I don't know if they got exported or not. He had permissions to do that, so he could have easily exported leads. I'll never know. My lead manager employee, who was a friend of his, was already tracking on all this and was going to go work with him. So that part at least was pre-discussed and appears pre-planned. The contractors are friends of his, so I'd imagine they're going with him too. They say they're going to continue working on these projects, and then we'll see where they go from there. I don't know. And so I found myself in the situation where I spent $120,000 over the last 6-7 months on marketing, employees, trainings, for me and him. I mean, I paid for both of us to go to the 7-figure flipping, Flip Hacking Live. I paid for him to go to an acquisitions manager event. I paid for all these different systems. I hired 2 cold callers. We started doing some texting. We were doing some cold calling. We were doing the direct mail. We were doing pay-per-lead. I hired a pay-per-click company to run our own Google ads. All these things that we're scaling out to influx leads and then influx deals. And we were growing. I mean, we did 15 or 16 deals so far. It's April 26th. So it's been going very well. It's just stressful because it's a lot of ups and downs. It's like, well, I put all this money into scaling it, and then I realized that I was paying a little bit more than or way more than I should have in commission, because I was trying to facilitate this partnership. So I wasn't very profitable on it. Now, at the end of all things said and done, I'm going to have 4 properties that we bird that I will keep, and those have decent equity in them. And I think after that and the sale of the other flips, I will basically break even on my expenses. So I will essentially have, the $60,000, $80,000 in equity in those homes and some cash flow, which is great. And that's about it. He will have made that much in commission, and he'll be doing very well on that. The other thing here is that in January, when we didn't have any deals closed, that 3-month ramp-up period ended, and I paid him the 4th month. I gave him another $5,000 despite no commission, and I wasn't going to pull it from him at the time because It was in good faith as the partnership was going. Now, ultimately, I'm going to end up taking that out of the last project because, well, I mean, there wasn't commission tied to it, and it wasn't per our original agreement. So I'm gonna hold that back because I'm gonna have some costs that I need to recoup with all of this. But I digress. So that's the story. That's where we're at. Here's where things are. Here's some things that I've learned the hard way. So the first one is, if you're bringing in an acquisitions manager, even if it's a friend, don't let them know every single thing about your business, right? You need to keep some things secret. They don't need to know all your marketing wizardry. They don't need to know as much about your cost per lead and which leads are the most effective and what websites to go to get all those. They should just know a lead equals an appointment, equals an offer, equals a contract, right? That should be their focus. The other thing is absolutely make them sign a non-compete. It may not necessarily be the strongest thing to hold up in court, but it'll at least discourage them running off with your team to do their own thing. Absolutely make it clear that either the moment they leave the company, any commission they would have earned on any deals they've touched, invalid, or at least a ramp down period. So like, hey, if you leave 30 days later, nothing's left. Or if you leave, all your commissions get cut in half. 30 days later, they get cut in half again. 60 days later, gone. Something like that, right? Because I'm kind of in this weird position where even though we have nothing in writing that says I have to pay him, we also have nothing in writing that says I don't. And I'm not going to be that guy who screws somebody out of pay based on some legal loophole. In fact, the only written agreement that we have on commission, it's not even signed, but written, is the one that has the original like 10, 11, 12, 13%. But again, not going to do that. It's not worth it, right? And so I guess I kind of covered my butt in some cases because I didn't. And so the crux of this thing is that you could look at it from all different sides. So on his side, totally amicable. He really did do this for, my best interest, his best interest, everybody's best interest, nothing malicious. On my side, on the far side, right? This isn't how I feel, but on the far side, it could be construed as my systems, my cash allowed for building out the team, allowed for figuring out what lead systems worked, and then he took them and ran with them. So he used essentially my money, my network, my time, my money, my network, my time, my team that I was building, and took it all now that he's figured out what he wants to do. So I'm sure it's somewhere in the middle, There's some betrayal felt over here. Maybe there's some, actual genuine whatever felt over here. I don't know. And it's this weird situation. But, as I was saying, make sure you cover your butt. Have a legitimate employment contract signed. Have a non-compete signed. Maybe an NDA. Have a agreement that any lead that comes into the company belongs to your company, and that if they market to them or do any deals, there's a fine levied, and you get all this money back. Cover your ass so that they're not stealing your marketing. Again, I can't say that happened. Who knows? So you got to cover yourself, and then make sure that you either taper or cut pay once somebody leaves. Right? You got to either that both incentivizes them to stay, and if they do leave, it makes it more profitable for you. So that would have helped with the sting a little bit in all of this, but it is what it is. So now we're gonna move along and we're gonna tell you about what we're doing. And jump cut. Because the battery died on the monitor, so I gotta record the back half of the back quarter of the video here real quick again. But in the meantime, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below about what's going on if you like the vulnerability here. So what I was saying is that I talked to my attorney. With nothing in writing, it could be reasonably construed that I would not have to pay anything after this person left the company because they left the company. Why would you have to pay them, right? But I'm not going to do that because that's not worth it, right? That's not the right way to run a business here. We had agreed to certain things, but it is what it is. Now, I will most likely keep the 4th month that I paid him in January. I paid him $5,000, even though there was no commission tied to it because the ramp up had run out. We hadn't closed the deal yet. I paid him that because in good faith, if we're looking to build a business, I wanted him and his family to be taken care of. So I paid it anyway. And there was no talk of whether or not that was going to come back out of a commission down the road. I think at the time it was just kind of understood that, hey, we're working on this partnership. We'll sort it out down the road whenever we partner, right? Like I owe this much into the business and yada, yada. We'll work it all out. That's obviously not the case anymore, so I am probably going to pull that back out of the last piece of commission. But ultimately, the only thing we had in writing was the piece that was the original commission split, and that's not even signed. And so it's kind of this weird situation where, it is what it is. Now, I definitely feel a little bit betrayed by this whole situation, and it could go, one way or the other. It is what it is, but I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole and screw this person, because reputation's everything, and that's not the way I want to conduct business. So what am I gonna do? All right, I am going to scale back from the $15,000, $20,000 a month in expenses to like 2 to 4, and I'm going to focus back on direct mail instead of all the cold calling and everything else, with my assistant answering the calls, and then eventually the call center again, and she'll be running the CRM and running appointments for me, and I'll give her a commission split for just setting up the appointments and helping me out. And then I'm going to try to do 5 hours a week I work on this company, and like 2 to 4 appointments a week, and we do 2, 3, 4 deals a quarter. If I can do 2 deals a quarter, I'll be happy, we'll be profitable, it'll be fun, right? And so I want it to go back to real estate as like a hobby and a fun pastime, instead of this kind of stressful business thing it was coming to be, where they needed me 24/7 for questions and problems and answers and all these things to solve, and it was pulling me away from my brand and the things that I want to be passionate about. So now I'm going to be able to focus on building out new projects and new courses, and maybe do some one-on-one coaching, and do write some more books and all these things with the brand and the community, and really helping to improve all of that without having to be pulled away constantly for little problems and little issues with this company. So that's kind of where we're at with all that. I'm going to scale back. It's going to be a little bit less stressful. I'm going to target mostly like larger deals. Like, for example, I'm getting 10% equity on a campsite RV park, mobile home park thing right now for putting some people together. I brought another mobile home park to a buddy, and I might get a small piece of equity for, finding that deal. I'm trying to run a couple different deals and a couple different appointments together. And then, just looking to really find that niche on some of these larger deals, and then focus that marketing on like specific areas in town and really significant pain points, so that all of my marketing will be targeted towards the right things, and it'll still be fun and profitable. So that's kind of where we're at. It is what it is. I don't wish ill on him. It's not worth the headache. So, I don't know. It's me being vulnerable and talking to you guys about when businesses don't go so great. So if you appreciate it, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and follow along. We'll share with you some more things about what to and what not to do with business.